Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Anisastazkya and I'm from Group 3. And now I'm gonna introduce another member of Group 3 is Marvin E.Z Warella and Raymond Andrezon. So today I'm gonna explain about a case of diplomacy during war. The first one is, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is the art and practice of conducting negotiation between nation, group, or individuals in order to achieve a peaceful and mutually beneficial resolution to a conflict. Diplomatic effort often involve the use of dialogue, negotiation, and compromise to reach a mutually acceptable solution. Problem: the case of Syrian government versus opposition. The beginning, the conflict started with peaceful protests against the Syrian government, but escalated into a civil war with various factions and foreign powers involved in the fighting. The war has caused widespread devastation and human suffering, with hundreds of thousands of people killed and millions displaced. The Hague. In 2015, the UN sponsored a peace conference in Geneva, Switzerland, which brought together representatives of the Syrian government and various opposition groups. The conference aimed to find a political solution to the conflict through dialogue and negotiation. The talks were facilitated by Staffan de Mistura, the UN Special Envoy for Syria. The conference was attended by representatives of the Syrian government, the opposition group, and various international stakeholders, including the United States, Russia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. However, the talks were not without challenges, with some opposition groups initially boycotting the conference and others withdrawing during negotiations. UN role, UN interest, their interest to promote diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution at the global level, and their function to facilitate diplomatic effort to resolve conflict and prevent the escalation of violence. UN action. The UN has facilitated talks between the Syrian government and opposition group and has supported effort to establish a political transition in Syria as well as humanitarian aid. In the case of the Syrian civil war, the UN has facilitated talks between the Syrian government and opposition groups and has support of efforts to establish a political transition in Syria. The UN has also supported humanitarian effort to provide aid to those affected by the conflict. Overall, the UN role in promoting diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution is critical to maintaining global peace and security within actors that engage in the war as a form of diplomatic approach in the dispute.
The situation of actions in the status quo fall upon the concern that the right solution deemed to end the dispute is only through the United Nations and to carry out negotiations through diplomatic channels that have been done at the Geneva Conference. The result of these negotiations are expected to form a transitional government in Syria. The United Nations in the settlement of the Syrian dispute has issued resolutions previously, but failed to implement the right step taken to resolve the Syrian dispute is to implement the result of the negotiation at the first and the second Geneva Conference, namely the formation of a transitional government. The result of 2015 UN-sponsored peace conference in Geneva was the adoption of the Geneva Communique, a document outlining a roadmap for a political transition in Syria. The communique challenged for the establishment of a transitional governing body with full executive powers, a new constitution, and free and fair elections. The adoption of Geneva Communique was a significant achievement as it represents a rare moment of consensus among the parties involved in the conflict. However, aftermath of the implementation of the communique, terms faced significant challenges, with the Syrian government and oppositions group continuing to clash on the battlefield. But even with challenges, the case of diplomacy during the Syrian civil war demonstrates the importance of dialogue and negotiation in resolving conflict while the conflict in Syria is far from over. The Geneva Communique represents a significant step towards a political solution to the conflict. The diplomatic efforts of the UN and other international stakeholders are crucial in bringing an end to the suffering of the Syrian people and promoting long-lasting peace in the region.
In conclusion, while the Geneva Conference on Syria was a sign of diplomacy and is a critical event in ongoing Syrian conflict, its aftermath has been complex and challenging with the fighting on the ground, increasing actors involved, including the Syrian government, opposition groups, and foreign powers, the lack of agreement among the international community on how to move forward due to the states involved such as United States, Russia, regional powers such as Turkey and Iran with interests and priorities in Syria, make it difficult for the transitional governing body to establish. But indeed, the establishment of the Geneva Communique provide a roadmap for a political solution to the conflict. But even though the progress has been slow and violence has continued to escalate, there have been some positive development since the conference, including first establishment of de-escalation zones in a certain part of the country, which have been agreed upon by the Syrian government and opposition groups. This have helped to reduce violence in these areas and provides some relief for civilians. Additionally, there have been efforts to secure and deliver humanitarian aid those affected by the conflict, although this has been hindered by ongoing violence on the access issue.
تمناها نعاود على بلادنا بس هيك نمشي ببلادنا هناك ما نريد بيوت ولا نريد صخام بس جو السجر زارعينه وزيارة السجر بس نصاط بس وين والبيوت مشرعة.
But on all of this, why they want to conduct diplomacy? This discussion has been related to IR. So why? The decision to hold the Geneva Conference on Syria was the result of several factors, including the pressure from the international community and recognition by both Syrian government and opposition that the political solution is the conflict was necessary. One of the key factors that led to the decision to hold the conference was the increasing humanitarian crisis in Syria, so they think that political one is desirable. The conflict has already caused significant destruction and displacement, and the international community was increasingly concerned about the human toll of the conflict. Pressure from the United Nations and other international organizations also played an important role in bringing the Syrian government and opposition to the negotiating table. Another factor that led to the decision to hold the conference was a recognition by both sides that the military settlement was unlikely to be resolved through force alone. The Syrian government had made significant gains on the battlefield, but the opposition groups continued to hold significant territory as well, and they were able to launch periodic attacks. Both sides recognized that a political solution was necessary to end the conflict and stabilize the country. Finally, the decision to hold the conference was also influenced by the role of external actors in the conflicts. The conflicts in Syria had become increasingly internationalized, with a range of countries providing support to different sides. The involvement of external actors made it more difficult to resolve the conflict through only military means alone, and increased the urgency of finding a political solution. So, it is safe to sum our presentation with this paragraph. The decision to hold the Geneva Conference on Syria was the result of a range of factors, including pressure from the international community, recognition by both the Syrian government and opposition that the political solution was necessary, and the involvement of external actors in the conflict. While the conference did not result in an immediate resolution to the conflict, it is represented as an important step toward finding a peaceful solutions to the ongoing crisis in Syria. So that's it from our group, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Nisas, are you ready to present?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself first. My name is Anisastazkya and I'm from Group 3.